everybody. This is the Beer Guys Radio Show. Thank you so much for coming here, joining us, hanging out, having a beer, having some conversations, and finding out the hot topics in craft beer and other things, other randomness. I am Tim Dennis, Brian Hewitt. How you doing?
Not bad, Tim. Not bad at all. How are you doing, Tim?
I'm good, man. I'm making it through. So, we've had some nice weather here in the Atlanta area lately, and I don't want to say this. I feel all my thoughts and good vibes and all that are with our Florida friends as the hurricane comes through. But if you're outside of that hurricane path, a lot of times the weather is pretty nice. I guess it all gets sucked into the hurricane. I've noticed that normally when a big storm like that comes through, you do have some pretty nice weather for a while after that. And since there's another one barreling down as we record this, when the show goes out, we'll find out what happened there. But weather here right now is nice.
That one seems like it stayed. I watched the last one because at one point it was supposed to go directly over my house, basically. And
Helene, the last
Helene,
storm, and
it swung way east, I think, for us. This one moved a little south, like based on what we're seeing, and which is interesting. It's less of an adjustment, but I guess the difference in distance from Florida to the difference of the other one to Atlanta, maybe that's a little bit more. So even a small adjustment makes a huge difference. But it looks like it's going to go through the middle of Florida, and unfortunately, it's going to go through the area where I have family, and so I'm a little concerned.
Yeah. Okay.
They're not concerned at all. They're like, by the time it gets to us, it'll be maybe a 1 or a 2. It's not a big deal. We've had this come through before. I'm like, all right, if you say so. I don't know anything about how these work. I'm from the Northwest. This whole thing is crazy to me, hurricanes and whatnot.
They're in Orlando area, Brian?
They are, yeah.
Yeah, so the last I saw, and again, I want to throw out that we are recording this midweek, so if you're listening on Saturday and things are totally different than what we are saying, that is why. But the last I heard, it had moved south a little bit, which put it just below Tampa Bay area, and I know Orlando is like 90 miles north of Tampa, so should be out of the worst of it, I guess, there.
I think they're within the ring, but on the outside edge of the ring. So they're still going to get some wind and going to get some rain, but I think they've got good drainage, and they said everything around them is built with cinder blocks or something like that, which I guess is good. So
all right. I don't know, Brian. I don't know. You know what? The last Helene is the worst that I've ever got when a storm comes through, because we do sometimes when hurricanes come through, they do make it far enough up for us to get some pretty bad weather. But Helene's the worst that I recall here.
Yeah, this is so its impact on Asheville, was it like 100-year storm? It's like they haven't had something that has come through and pounded them like that in like a really long time. Like nobody would have expected that to happen. So they said, just unprecedented, just nothing like that, at least in recent memory there. But moving along, Brian, not beer related, but food related, and people who drink beer like food. But I just saw recently the Michelin Guide Awards are coming back to Atlanta. Y'all probably remember us rambling about those, mainly me last year. Pretty excited to see what they've got, but they're coming back at the end of October. We did get a few 1-star restaurants last year, and I did see a comment, Brian. They said they don't feel we'll get any 2 stars this year. Yeah, they said we still have some development to do to get up to a 2-star restaurant, but I'm curious to see what it is. And last year they stayed in Atlanta. We have 285 that circles Atlanta. That's called the perimeter. Last year they stayed in the perimeter, and now they said that some are outside the perimeter. Some of the suburban locations may get some mention. I didn't actually know what the different stars designated. There's an actual meaning to them, and I saw that online.
Okay.
Basically 1 star means that the restaurant incorporates high quality cooking and is worthy of a stop. So that's good for a lot of things, a lot of places. I think there's a lot of places around here that in my book would be roughly 1 star. 2 stars means a restaurant offers excellent cooking and people should make a detour to prioritize a meal at that place. There's a few places like that for me around here. And 3 stars means the restaurant is deemed exceptional and special enough to become part of someone's travel plans to a city. So before you go there specifically with the plans of going there. So that's, I don't know if there's many places anywhere in the world that are like that for me. So
now, come on, Brian, when you travel to a city, don't tell me you're not looking for, hey, these guys, if you go to San Diego, who's got the best fish? Who's got the best taco?
True. Yeah.
When I went out to Denver for GABF, more on GABF here in a little bit, but I'd heard of a place called Tokabi, the Native American restaurant. I'm like, I gotta try this. We don't get these in Atlanta, Georgia. So it may be a little different, but there are definitely places that when I'm taking a trip, I'm looking to see what there is to eat in the area. It's usually not like I don't go when I travel. I'm usually looking for more what's the good casual stuff. I'm not looking for a 5-star restaurant or 1 star in the case of Michelin stars. But what about you?
Yeah, I was distracted while you were thinking that. I was like, why don't we have a Michelin star guide for breweries? Because I'm like, there are breweries that I would definitely make plans to go to, like that those would be like 3-star things. But I missed what was the question originally, Tim?
Just do you make plan? And to be honest, talking about we talked about the Bib Gourmand last year, which is like, hey, these guys they have good food, affordable food, worth checking out. That's more my speed of things with Michelin.
Yeah.
I would travel someplace. I'd be like, what are their Bib Gourmand places? Because that's going to be the type of joint I want to hit. But my question was, do you check out the food scene when you travel somewhere, like prior to going?
I don't typically. No, I don't. I don't typically. I check out the beer. I check out the beer scene.
All right.
And make plans accordingly, which really annoys my wife a lot. That like I'll have plans. That's not entirely true. When a couple of times we went down to the coast, the Gulf Coast, I looked ahead of time because these are small places. It's hard to know where to go. And I figured I'll spend some time and figure out some places. So yeah, I did. And it doesn't always pay off. Depending on the place you go, sometimes the reviews are a little too glowing. The people love their local place a lot, and it doesn't always live up to the hype when you're from out of town. So it's hit and miss, honestly, if you're doing your homework before you go.
Yeah. Like going to Chicago, I'm looking for pizza. I'm looking for Italian beef.
Oh yeah.
Go to Philly. I'm going to get a cheesesteak. It's going to happen, and they're soft pretzels. I don't think those get as much hype as the cheesesteak does, but their pretzels there are good. And if you're coming to Atlanta, you need to get you some wings. You need to get you some lemon pepper wet somewhere.
That's true.
That's true. Happen, but yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what Michelin has to say about us this year.
I think if I was going to Philadelphia, if I was going to Chicago, I would actually spend a little time researching, like I want the best Italian beef. I want the best Philly. Yeah. I think I would look into that. If the place is known for a particular type of food that I really like, I would make a note of that. I should have done that the times I've been to New York. I'd never really looked ahead of time. I just went wherever and just got some pizza. So I probably should have done that, but that's on me. Anyway.
It's on you, Brian.
Yeah.
It's on you. Well, Brian, our beers of the week. What are you drinking this week, Brian?
So I pre-gamed with Highland Brewing Highland Pilsner because I'm still drinking the North Carolina beers to help support them right now because that's kind of the best thing I can really do. I am now on Highlands Brewing's Clawhammer Oktoberfest because I'm not done with Oktoberfest yet. So and I still have a few left over, but it still feels like Oktoberfest to me, even though it's officially over. I think I just have a lot more Highland than some of the other breweries. I think I've drank through all the rest of those. So, and if I have time, I'm going to get to what I didn't realize at the time, and maybe I should have figured it out from the name, is a 3-way collaboration between New Realm, Sam Adams, and Haas Hops, which is Three-Headed Monster and Imperial Red IPA. So looking forward to getting into that. I do like a
lot of beer,
a red beer, a red ale. So yeah, potentially
for an hour.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes I get into them after the show, so
the pregame and the after party. You gotta have beers to carry you through there.
May have to call that last one the after party beer because that's usually when it gets opened.
Yeah.
What about you,
Brian?
Tim?
For me, I've got one beer here, and I'm drinking. This was a gift from you, Brian. Thank you so much. The Founders Oktoberfest, and that's one of our supporters, one of our Patreon supporters, friend of the show, Coach Rogers. He did his own Oktoberfest blind tasting. And there was the Founders Oktoberfest. And they had another, I forget what the special version was that Founders did, but Founders had a couple. But when we did our blind tasting this year, we did not come across the Founders, but you found them after we did our tasting. And so I've got a can here now to enjoy that, and it's quite nice.
What I found is I could not find them in anything less than a 12 pack. And so I said, well, I've heard really good things. I'm just going to get the 12 pack and I'll drink them. They're Oktoberfest beers. I've heard really good things. The one I could not find is, I believe, the Ultimate Oktoberfest, which came out of a bourbon barrel. So, a bourbon barrel aged Oktoberfest. I'm sure that was awesome, but I asked a few places and they're like, yeah, that sold out like really fast. So yeah, it figures. Of course it did, you know.
But those in Coach's tasting, the Founders ones were a couple of the top of the list ones for his. So he recommended we try them for sure. But absolutely. Yeah. Let's see. Stephen Pete is asking us if we saw a listing that Mitch Still had put up about the brewery status in Asheville. Stephen, I haven't seen anything recently. I wanted to mention that because we are trying to keep an eye on that, but no, I don't believe I've seen that yet. We've been kind of keeping an eye on social media. I don't think I've seen a ton of changes since we did last week's update. A lot of people just saying we're okay and we're making it through. We're rebuilding, we're getting things going, but that's that was really the last that I've seen at this point.
Yeah, it's not a lot of, I haven't seen a lot of chatter on social media about it. So, and I honestly, a lot of the news sites, if they touched on it at all, they went through it and they kind of moved on. So, I know that there's going to be a long period of time where Western North Carolina is going to need a lot of help, and Eastern Tennessee too, I think.
Yeah, and I think now they're just focusing on it's time to rebuild. They told us a lot about the breweries and this and that. Now it's like, hey, they need help. Unfortunately, we've had some issues with whether or not they're getting the aid there. Rumors going around, untrue information that's hindered the efforts there. So I think that they're on, unfortunately, which is something that is absolutely horrible to have to do in this case, is they're having to do a lot of damage control outside of just keeping the efforts going. But that's that. We do have Steven saying he misses No Mike Nate. I don't know if we mentioned this. He's celebrating this week. Mo Mike Nate, happy birthday to you. He had plans with his SO this week and couldn't join us. So he's out celebrating another trip around the sun there. Hope you have a good time, Nate. Good stuff, Brian.
Yes.
More acquisitions, dude. Every week we hear closures, acquisitions. Someone on the local Atlanta Beer Forum put a list together of all the Georgia breweries that have closed this year. And it's really sombering to see it when everything is listed out there. You don't realize, there's a lot, but when you put a list together, it really puts that in perspective. But another option that some breweries are taking, we're seeing mergers and acquisitions in that. And Night Shift Brewing has been acquired.
Yeah. And I'm curious if you have a number on the number of closures from Georgia breweries. But
I don't have the number. I know where the list is. I do not have. I didn't want to count. I'm like, that's a lot, Brian. I counted a lot, and I'm like, that's all I.
Okay,
that's all I
numbers a lot. Yeah. I'm a nerd. I like numbers even when they're bad numbers. Yeah. But anyway,
but on the flip side, though, there were some openings. There's still people opening out there, and it blows my mind, Brian, that there are still breweries that open in Georgia. Or I shouldn't say still. A few years ago, a brewery couldn't even think about opening in Georgia without us knowing that it was in the works there. And there's been a couple that are open that I haven't even heard of until, recently. Like, yeah, these guys opened about 6 months ago. I'm like, I've literally never heard of them. I don't know if that says more about me or craft beer in general, because we still keep a pretty close eye on things. So I think it would have to be pretty under the radar to miss it. But that said, Brian, Night Shift Brewing was acquired. What's the details there?
Yeah, so Hendler Family Brewing Company, the parent company of Jack's Abbey, has agreed to purchase Massachusetts-based Night Shift Brewing. When the sales completes, Hendler Family Brewing Company, that's a mouthful, their name, I'm going to tell you, will become Massachusetts' largest craft beer producer. They project an annual production of 100,000 barrels in 2025, and the indication is that they will be retaining the vast majority of Night Shift's existing team, which is definitely not a given these days when people get bought. The deal is expected to close sometime late in 2024 this year, anyway. The financial details, as is always the case, it seems, were not disclosed. This is Hendler Family Brewing Company's second acquisition. Earlier this year, in April, they bought Wormtown Brewery, also based in Massachusetts. And actually, the purchasing of Wormtown is what formed Hendler Family Brewing Company. Before that, it was just Jack's Abbey. So the two together became this kind of under this parent company. So they're growing, and they're a big deal in Massachusetts, and maybe they'll continue doing it because the signs. It's a rough industry still, so there may be additional breweries that will be acquired. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll hear more of it. Absolutely, Brian. Absolutely. But it continues for sure. And again, gets better than a closure, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's much better if they can bring these things together. They can get use the power of their combined forces to keep afloat and keep people working and keep the beer flowing. And you hate to see good beer just go away because I
hope it works.
Yes.
I hope that it works there. That with these breweries merging, acquiring each other, and all that. Hopefully, that the reason for that is beneficial. We've seen a lot of these bigger acquisitions, and here we're just talking, about a couple breweries, I guess 3 at this point, coming together. But when we see the big conglomerates like the Tilray thing that we've talked about, they start to trim the fat after they get a little bit in there. So be interesting to see how it develops. So Brian,
yes,
it is spooky season. I think we can say that. I think we're close enough now to say that we're within spooky season. And Sam Adams is taking advantage of that. They have a limited edition at-home seance kit from Sam Adams.
Yeah, just when thought you'd seen every conceivable beer marketing scheme to get people to get into your product. Yeah, Sam Adams comes out with a seance kit. The kit includes an instruction card complete with your step-by-step guide on how to have a cold Sam Adams with a cold Sam Adams. Yes, you would be summoning the spirit of the beer's namesake, Samuel Adams, from the grave. He's going to drink a beer with you, apparently. Assuming he's into beer, we have to guess. Anyway, you will also be getting a Sam Adams portrait, a vial of Boston dirt, which you aren't supposed to eat or do anything with, but it's from the state that he called home, which I guess will help summon him home. Though I don't know how that competes with all the other dirt out there from Boston. So anyway, that's neither here nor there. A vial of Sam Adams hops that are inspired by those used to make Sam Adams beer. It's unclear as to, I think they're real hops. Maybe they're real hops. They're also, they strongly advise you not to eat them. So you get a vial of hops. I'm not sure exactly what they are, but they're inspired by Sam Adams beer. You get 2 seance pint glasses that reveal a spooky illustration when cold beer is poured into them. And a Sam Adams Oktoberfest candle, which is a candle in an Oktoberfest beer can for setting the appropriate mood for summoning Sam Adams. If you were lucky enough to find it in stock, the limited edition Sam Adams at-home seance kit will set you back $18.03. The price appears to be a reference to the year Sam Adams died. And in fact, he passed away on October 2nd, 1803, at the age of 81, which I think is when they announced that this went on sale. So this year, anyway. Yeah,
I want this, Brian. I want this, but the problem is that I've actually checked the website a few times to see, and I can't find it in stock. I just went and took another look now since we're talking about it. Out of stock. I mean, 1803, that's a bargain.
Yes,
that's a bargain. And you know what? I would eat the dirt and the hops because I think that would give me a better chance at actually conjuring Sam Adams. So
I think it's a test. Yeah. I think Sam Adams will only appear if you eat the dirt and the hops.
They're like, don't eat the dirt. Wink, wink.
Yeah, that's right. So, it's real dirt. Don't eat it. It might have E. coli in it. Wink, wink. I'm like,
you're not going to get me that way.
No.
So. There are beers too, Brian, for the spooky season outside of just a Sam Adams kit. And what are some beers for you that are Halloweeny?
Oh, Halloweeny beers.
Are
boy.
pumpkin beers Halloween beers? Or do they qualify?
Yeah, if I was going to drink a pumpkin beer, the only time of the year I'd probably drink it is right around Halloween. And I've been tempted by. I've seen the truck and tap list. I've seen that they've got Greater Pumpkin out of a bourbon barrel. I'm like, a bourbon barrel of pumpkin beer? I might be into that. Like, you got bourbon, you got pumpkin, you got all the spices, but you got bourbon too, and like the two together. So I would consider that. I think any kind of like super like intense big stout is scary enough. And let me think. Fontaflora had what do they call it? Blood on the something or other. I think it was made with beets, and so it was meant to be kind of creepy looking. And I'm like, okay, that seems kind of creepy. I'd go with that. So anything that with a kind of a bloody looking color might be creepy. I don't have any specific. Do you have any specific Halloweeny beers?
The one that came to mind, and I don't know, Brian, if it's new this year. This is the first year that I heard about it, but Allagash has I think it's called Haunted House. Let me
oh, that's right.
Yeah, Allagash Haunted House. It's a hoppy dark ale. So that looks like that's definitely meant for Halloween / spooky season. And you've got like, who is it? Southern Tiered Warlock.
Oh, the Warlock.
So
yeah,
that would be one that I think would fit into that.
There's a peanut butter cup stout that has a name that's themed that is reminiscent of not Oktoberfest, but Halloween. And I can't for the life of me remember what it is. I think I actually might have a can, and I think it might actually be from North Carolina. And I haven't gotten into it. I was holding it until Halloween, and I forget which one it is. But peanut butter cup stout, I think, is what it was. I'm like, spooky theme name. I'm like, okay, this was
spooky theme. Okay,
yeah.
I didn't know if it was just because it was like a Reese's cup thing. It was like Halloween can. Has anybody done that?
What?
Like, they do a Halloween beer, but it's the Halloween candies. Because that seems like that would be a fun thing to do.
So just like the peanut cup beer.
Yeah, you could have a Tootsie Roll flavored one. You could have that. I mean, I know we need to talk to Sean over at Pontoon because he's already done the Skittles thing.
That's right.
So he could capitalize on that.
What's the other one? Candy corn?
Corn. Now, our buddy Scott Hadeen at Burnt Hickory many, many years ago, Scott was known for trying wild things, and Scott, by his own admission, said the candy corn IPA was not a good idea. So I did not try that one. I didn't get a chance to sample that one. I guess I'm going to say thankfully.
I want to say that there's been times where, candy corn, like that's like a brewing off flavor almost. You're like, this beer is bad. It almost tastes like there's candy corn in it.
Tastes like candy corn. It's like it is. 100% real, all natural candy corn. Another one I just thought of, New Holland. I think their pumpkin ale is called Ichabod.
Yes, Ichabod.
So I think that would qualify because that's your Sleepy Hollow thing there. I mean, Rogue Dead Guy. It's a year round, but I guess that could qualify, right?
They've got Dead Guy and they've got Dead Guy IPA. They turn that into a whole thing. It's not like they create a family of beers around it. Yeah,
Ohana.
Yes, that's right. It's
okay.
Ohana of dead people. We talked to them and they had the ashtray beer. I think that they have like a Day of the Dead type of thing. I guess that's kind of crossing the streams a little bit.
Are you talking about Brewdog?
No. We had them on a show a while back, maybe last year. It might have been a while.
Ashtray beer?
Yeah.
Explain yourself, Brian Hewitt.
Oh, it's the beer. It's like a dressed can, I think, with pepper and stuff on it. I'm trying to think of what they.
Okay, I don't recall the name of the brewery, but they're one we met at, I think, Little Beer Fest last year. I think it was Little Beer.
Yeah,
and it was just we just happened to be going along because they had a chilada, a chilada flavored beer, which is a passion of mine. So we got to talking, and I do believe they may have said they had a Day of the Dead beer.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. It's like something like that might be a good thing. Like the Wirebox old Sunday mole stout or something like that. They had a mole type of thing. Anything kind of dark.
I think you're stretching it. I'm not going to allow that one. That's pushing it there. So Sunday morning mole stout, but yeah, I'm going to have to go out and see what all we can get for Halloween beers. That'd be fun. Brian,
Yes.
social media is always about having trends,
Yes.
going viral. And the stupider the better, to be quite honest with you. It would have more legs. And do you remember when they did the thing where you dropped a basketball with a beer can on top of it?
Oh
And
yeah, I
it
did
had to
see that.
you had to grab it, out of the air and do that. And there was something where they put a can of beer on a garage door, like taped it to the garage door, and then you close the garage door, and as it closes, it pours the beer out. Or I think you taped it onto it
Oh.
while the garage door was closed, and then when it went upright, it poured the beer.
Oh, you'd have to be on the inside for that to work.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it would really ruin your
That's
garage.
right. You if you're not on the right side of that, then well, you're not that smart for one, and two, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. But this one's a little less destructive. The newest trend on social media is splitting the G, Brian.
Yes, it is.
What in the world is splitting the G?
Yeah. So it involves the world's most popular dry Irish stout, Guinness, and the idea is to drink just enough of the beer on your first drink that the line between the liquid and the foam on the beer ends up halfway through the G on the Guinness on your pint glass. And you want to stop. You want to get it right in the middle of that G if you can. You want to stop before it goes under the G, and you don't want it to go above the G, though. I guess there's a lot of debate as to other places you can drink to. But so you're wondering, what on earth? Why? Cool, but why would you do this? Like anything on social media, people are doing it because they've seen other people doing it. You've got big names like John Cena mentioned it. I guess the Jonas Brothers did some riff on it. And there's a user that I think took a video of themselves splitting the G at Guinness and crying while they did it, which I thought was like, wow, there's nothing more TikTok than that. That's got to be. I actually watched that on TikTok. I hate to say it.
Wow.
I had to see it. I should have gone incognito with my browser. At least I didn't have an account or anything like that. But yeah. So anyway, yeah, people have gotten millions of views for doing this. And it's also being used in bar bets. People are doing practical things like seeing who amongst their group of friends pays for the next round. And sometimes bartenders are giving people free pints if you can split the G, because it's a little difficult to do that. You have to stop drinking at the right time, but drink just long enough. So now that you know about it, are you going to go do it, Tim? Are you going to post?
I do it.
You splitting the G to social media?
So here is my thing, Brian, with stupid human tricks like this. As long as they're not hurting anybody, annoying anybody, making a mess in public. If you make a mess in your own house, that's on you, But I think stupid distractions are fun. And I think if it's something like splitting the G or even bouncing a basketball to drink it, I do sometimes think they get overdone to the point it's like, okay, I can only see this so many times. But if I was out with my buddies and we were drinking pints of Guinness, I would probably say, let's see if we can split the G's here, And of course, as you do for something that's totally ridiculous and meaningless in life in general, whoever won would cheer and jeer at the others. It's a win-win, man. So yeah, I think little trends like this that are just really meant for stupid fun are just that.
It's a gold mine for Guinness, because in order to split the G, you're going to have to practice. So you're going to have to order several pints to figure this out. You're going to have to calibrate and practice. And I saw a group of guys, like 4 guys together, all did it. And I'm like, well, that's pretty impressive. Like, they must have been practicing a fair amount. But yeah, at least this is harmless. Unlike I think there was another trend out there in social media for a while, and we put out a warning about this, where people were using beer in the place of like suntan lotion to protect their skin from ultraviolet rays.
And it was right. I forgot about that, and it was absolutely not effective at all.
It's really bad.
Probably the other way around, with having that malt and stickiness on you, it'd probably help you to get a burn more than anything. I don't know. I don't know the science on that.
It'll attract bugs too that like to bite and eat sticky substances. So it's like, this is I think there are some things that circulate on social media that are intentionally put out there to be malicious. And they're like, I want to see if I can make dumb people do this and hurt themselves. So I'm like, that's why I just don't do what you see on social media, man. This is fine, though.
I mean, straight up, Brian, people have died, over stuff. There was, I saw a news story, not to get too heavy with things here, but there was a trend of, quote, subway surfing. And, some little 14-year-old girl went out and tried it and died doing it. So it can be dangerous. I think we need to stick with stuff like splitting the G's, doing the boss pour was popular. People love to post pictures of their boss pour, and stuff like that is fine. Have a good time with it. Make it harmless.
Yeah. I'm in favor of that. And I still like the occasional boss pour, though. I'm very much in favor of good head on beer. So I think that's if there's not a lot of, if you've got some sort of a Berliner or a Goza that doesn't naturally form a good amount of head, getting a good boss pour on it, especially if it's got some fun color to it, it's still fun to do. It's a little silly. You're going to make a mess, but you're not going to hurt anybody. So
see, and I've lightened up on that now, Brian, because we all need more good, dumb fun these days with everything else that's going on in life. So because I was a pretty vocal opponent to the boss pour when it was in its heyday. And they would get stuff that looked like a fishbowl. And boss pour into it. I'm like, there's no way they're going to get even a small sip out of that without making a mess.
The ones that were globes that have like a little tiny opening in the top. Like, how do you even drink out of that? Ooh, do you put a straw in there? What is going on?
Those are the videos I want to see. I don't want to see the pictures and the videos of the boss pours. I want to see the people drinking out of them after they've taken their social media pics. That's what I want. That's the content.
I think the next level up for splitting the G is you've got to split the G, but you got to do it drinking through a straw. I want to see that.
Through a straw?
Yeah. Okay. I want to see if somebody can pull that off because I feel like that would be really difficult to do. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll have to get us some pint. We'll have to get us some properly poured pints here and try this.
A coffee straw. It's
a swizzle stick, the stir,
you can sip through.
Do it with no hands. There's so many variations that we can add to this one. Well, Brian, before we move on, how about we give our good friends over at Truck and Tap a shout out?
Yeah. So Oktoberfest has come and sadly gone, and that means we're getting into spooky season, like Tim has said. But if you're like me and you're not willing to let go of Oktoberfest, I won't judge you for ordering an Oktoberfest beer at Truck and Tap. They still have a few. But if you're into pumpkin beers, you can find those at Truck and Tap too. Several locations are pouring Dogfish Head's Pumpkin and Left Hand's Pumpkin Spice Latte Nitro. If you're so inclined, I would taste the Nitro one just because it's got coffee in it. I've had it before. I remember it being it's fine. But as for me, here are my Truck and Tap picks for the week. At Truck and Tap Woodstock, I just have to get New Realm's Three-Headed Monster IPA. It's an Imperial Red IPA with a big caramel malt backbone and a big hot punch. It sounds scary delicious. I'm going to find out later on because I have one in my cooler. I haven't touched it yet, but I hear good things. And it's a 3-way collaboration, which is also fun. At the Duluth location, I'm going with Bold Monk's Compassion, which is a blend of foeder-aged sour ales, I think a young and an old one. And they add passion fruit and hibiscus to that. I suspect this beer will be a spooky shade of red. At Truck and Tap Alpharetta, I'm hanging on to Oktoberfest a little longer with Creature Comforts Oktoberfest Marzen because the calendar can't tell me what to do. I don't care if you say Oktoberfest is over. It's over when I say it is. At the Lawrenceville location, finally, I'm getting a pour of Unani's Airing of Grievances. Now, I think this is a little ahead of when it should come out, but I'm going to allow it. I'll allow it. It's an interesting one. It's inspired by Belgian Imperial Stouts, which are, in my experience, are really tough to pull off well, but Unani does good work, and I bet they'll make a good one. So, yeah, a Belgian-inspired Imperial Stout, I'll give them a shot. And as always, I encourage you to check out Truck and Tap's website, truckandtap.com, for all the latest details about which beers are pouring, which food trucks are serving, and which events are happening at your local Truck and Tap. And thank you to Truck and Tap for your support.
Thanks, Truck and Tap. You are the best. We appreciate it. Brian, talking about seasonal creep, what's the opposite of that? Seasonal lag?
Seasonal lag is the word I've been using.
Seasonal lag. Okay, because because I am a hypocrite and I don't mind admitting that, I'm okay with some seasonal lag, but there's even limits to that. Like, go ahead and drink your Oktoberfest. Have you another pretzel? Have you a Schweinhaxe or whatever you want to do? You can squeeze into November. I'll allow up until Thanksgiving. Then we do.
Okay.
We have to have a changing of the guard at some point, Brian. And you can drink your Oktoberfest at Thanksgiving dinner. After that, you got to switch over to the holiday.
Well,
Well,
Tim, what do you think about me last year drinking Sam Adams Summerfest right up until I bought my first Sierra Nevada Summerfest right up until I bought my first Sierra Nevada Celebration? I had the cans side by side and the boxes side by side. I did a trade-off of them. So this is
that's a Walmart move, Brian. That is like Walmart pulling out the lawnmowers and replacing it with Christmas trees. That's like they're set to the same. It enrages me and makes me like you much, much less. But it's your life, Brian. It's your life, so you can do what you want. I
thought it was great, and many people, by many I mean 2 or 3 on social media, thought it was
twos
great
of people.
Yeah, twos of people. That was wonderful.
Were they still good? Were they still drinking good, Brian?
Yeah, Summerfest is just a German Pilsner, and I think most of the ones that were left were actually refrigerated, and they held up really well. And they're not really heavily reliant on the hops to deliver a lot of stuff to them in terms of aroma compounds. So they were still drinking well. They weren't maybe as good. I'm like, they may have diminished a little bit. It's still fine, you know?
I think Sierra Nevada should help you out, and they need to launch a Spring Fest and an Autumn Fest. And keep you going year round there, Brian. But then you'd just be drinking like 3 seasons at a time.
And, I would just line them all up. I would just at the end of the year, I would just drink one after the other.
We're taking a trip through the seasons, y'all. Let's go.
Hey, Brian, for all seasons. Yes.
Yeah. Good stuff. Well, Brian, some interesting news here. I found this article, shared it with you, and thought it was pretty cool. There's a group in Germany that is taking the waste from hops production and making construction, not just building materials, but construction materials out of it. And what's the scoop on this?
Yeah, the startup's name is Hopfon, which is a play on the German word for hops, which is Hopfen. So Hopfon versus En at the end. They want to use the leaves, the spines, and the bines left over from hop harvests to make products that will reduce both construction and agricultural waste. So construction waste accounts for over a third of all the waste generated in the European Union. And only 20% of the hop plant biomass is actually considered a usable product. The rest is really considered waste, and only a fraction of that waste can be even used in things like fertilizer. So like you said, the products they plan to make with the leftover hop material include things like acoustic panels, thermal insulation, building boards, and they actually have a customer lined up for their acoustic panels already. And as they grow their customer base, they plan to have like a circular business model where customers can return their products to them to be remade into new material, so they can recycle the recycled material into new things. They also have tentative plans to expand their business to use other organic materials in the future. And in fact, I believe they were inspired by recycling that was, I think, in the wine industry. They were using biomass from that to create things. So they said, hey, why not hops? There's a lot we could do with that. Turns out they're right. So that's what's happening. And they had pictures of the boards they were making, and they, like, for acoustic boards, it looked to me like those would work really well.
It looked like a typical piece of particle board, didn't it, Brian? Just kind of that pressed, chopped up wood matter there. So yeah, pretty cool. I was thinking they should partner with breweries on those acoustic panels, because so many breweries are kind of built warehouse style that it's loud and booming in there. So they should partner, and it'd be a neat thing. Hey, these are acoustic tiles are made out of hop waste here. So it's the circle of life.
Yeah, heck, if they could get it made with their own. So some of the breweries grow a small amount of hops on site. Like if they could actually produce their own, send it off, have it made, and then press it and make it, then you've got a story, which everybody loves a good story about things. So those aren't just sound panels; those are that's hop matter for the last 2 or 3 years, and we made it into a board on the wall to make it more pleasant for you to hang out in our brewery. That's cool. Everybody loves that. I love this idea. I think it's great. and I wish them all the luck with it. And
Good
I
luck,
think that there's I think there's a lot more things that could be made with this, and I'm excited to see where this goes.
Yeah, it'll be cool to see how this develops for sure. Brian, Great American Beer Festival. I don't know the exact date. I saw they're setting up. They said the beer is there. Everything's going, probably kicks off going into this weekend. I'm not going this year. So just out of jealousy, I didn't look at the exact dates that it's happening there, but it's coming up. But this year, there are some big changes happening at GABF. And I know you dug in there to see exactly what those changes are. So what's going on with our beloved Great American Beer Festival?
Yeah, in terms of the actual dates, I don't think I have them, but there might be an introductory session, I think, the day after we're recording this. Anyway, but it is coming up this weekend when this episode drops.
Brian, I have those dates here. That is October 10th through 12th. So
okay,
that'll be Thursday through Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah, I think there is a Sunday.
Math's
session?
hard, man. Yeah. Math is hard. Yeah. 10th, 11th, and 12th. That's 3 days. So we're talking Thursday through Saturday there.
Yeah, there you go.
All right.
And so, according to Axios, the 42nd Great American Beer Festival will see some pretty significant changes. The first change is about making the event more focused on experiences than beer, which is interesting. To do that, they're organizing breweries into themed areas that emphasize activities and other than drinking, like Stein hosting competitions, costume contests, and other games. I'm not sure what all the other games are, but I think historically they have organized breweries alphabetically or by other categories or maybe regionally as well. The Brewers Association says that that's all about appealing to younger attendees who are more interested in experiences than older attendees have been typically. So we've seen that. We've seen studies about how the younger generations are all about the experience.
Right.
And that's what draws them to tap rooms. The second change is the beverages available. And spoiler alert, it's going to be more than just beer. We're talking about cocktails, hard seltzers, hard teas, and ciders. Some of these, I think, have been available at previous festivals, but canned cocktails and hard teas apparently are very new. The third change is eliminating, and it's actually fourth change too, eliminating the Saturday night session because I think they ran low on kegs and they got a little boozy and people were maybe a little overserved. And they're also opening a members only session, which homebrewers really like, to the general public. It, of course, is really late to get tickets at this point in time. By the time you're listening to this, it's probably, mostly over. But if you're curious, the opening session, which was on Thursday, was $85 to get in, and the Friday, Saturday sessions were $95. And honestly, that doesn't sound like a bad deal to me price-wise. I'm like, no, if I were in the area, I'd pay that to go for sure.
Yeah. I mean, we have paid that much for a local beer fest, Brian, for something that's just a couple of hours, And the great thing with JBF, and again, I went in 2017, I think it was one, or maybe 2016. So it's been a while, but that was in the heyday of craft beer, Brian, way back 8 years ago. And people just wanted to drink beer. That's it. You didn't have to have any kind of event or experience or anything. People were there to have beer. And that was all that was required. Falling Rock Tap House was still open. And a lot of the events, you could go to Denver during GABF, never go to any of the sessions, and still have the best beer week of your life. Weekend, I guess, there. But it was just quite an event. And you know what? Props to them for adjusting with the times and not just letting it die on the vine. If people want experiences, may not be, I don't know, Brian, I can't even say that may not be what I want, because the things that we've done here, the festivals that we went to in Atlanta that have had a theme or a little something extra are really enjoyable. They're really nice. We talk about Little Beer Fest and
Le Bon.
And you have Wrecking Bar does Strong Beer Fest, with the theme there and stuff going on. But, at Le Bon, oysters are another big theme. So you've got, these wild and funky beers and stuff, plus oysters. And it's nice. It's nice to do that. So I hope it serves them well, because I know it's been tough for them really post-COVID and the changing times. So, man, hopefully it's a good move for old GABF, and hopefully folks enjoy it.
Yeah, it needs to be a good time. We need people to be in and be exposed to craft beer,
Yeah,
and get a chance to try it out, because if we don't appeal to the younger audience, we're just not going to get them. They're just not going to try beer. They're never going to know
sure.
what they're missing, and they'll just move on through their life drinking, I don't know, hard water or whatever it is that the youngest generation's doing these days. I don't know.
And Brian, this is, I don't know exactly how many years. I'm trying to see if they show it the X annual or anything, but I believe it was started in the early 80s, I think. Let's say even we're talking 30 to 35 years of this, and it had growth up until, say, the last 5 years or so. So, that's pretty impressive for an event to run 35 years, because we're seeing a lot of other non-beer events that have been around for decades that are going away. We had another beer event, but like Sweetwater's 420 Fest that they host here in Atlanta, it was just a shell of its former self this past year.
So this is the 42nd one, and I assume that at least 1 year was taken off for COVID, maybe two. So we're looking at it started, and I didn't Google it yet, but it's either 1980 or 1981 is when it must have started, theoretically, putting all those pieces together.
Did you say 42nd earlier? Because now that you say that, I feel like I see it in your notes now, Brian. Okay. Thanks for that helpful information, Brian. It was helpful.
That's right. I pulled up a calculator to do the math. So I'll just let you know.
Okay.
That. So,
gotcha.
Yeah.
Do whatever it takes. But hopefully it's a good time. Even Denver beer scene, has changed. Still a lot of good beer out there. And I guarantee that if you're there and you don't have a good time, it's on you. It's on you.
Oh, yeah. It's got to be. Yeah.
For sure, Brian. Brian, this is something I'm pretty excited about. And I hope that when we talk about beer trends, we've talked many times before we've had deep conversations about beer package sizes. And, I know you do like your long beer Fridays on Twitter, Brian, where you get a tall boy, stovepipe, whatever they're being called these days. And it seems to be popular. 16-ounce cans are popular, 19.2 stovepipes. Man, I want the 8-ouncers. I want short cans. That's enough for me to have
shorty cans,
a serving. And Brian, the gods of New Belgium heard my prayers, apparently, and they're bringing out what they're calling the Voodoo Ranger Mini Ripper cans.
Yeah, Mini Ripper. So unfortunately, they are not the quart-sized long beer cans I've been dreaming about. So no 32-ounce cans for me.
Sad.
They are releasing Voodoo Ranger Juice Force and Tropic Force in 8-packs of 7.5-ounce cans. As we've mentioned on the show before, Voodoo Ranger is like the top selling IPA brand in the country with, like, by large margin, like huge percentages.
Yeah.
But they've kind of exhausted where they can go with additional line extensions. At this point, there are so many of them. I think they're starting to cannibalize each other's market share. So when they add a new one, it's just really stealing market share from the others. So radically changing the packaging size like this could open up more occasions for people who enjoy beers with ABVs of 9.5%, because let's be honest, there's not a lot of good occasions to drink a stovepipe of a nearly 10% beer. That's basically Friday and Saturday, and that's it. That's all you're going to do there. The unusual size is likely to get a lot of people to buy them just for the novelty. I think I will. I'm pretty sure I will. Yes, I will. Of course I will. They will also have storage and convenience on their side. The smaller cans will easily fit into your crowded beer fridge or cooler. And the one thing I wondered when I was reading this is, why did they settle on 7.5-ounce cans instead of a more obvious choice of 8-ounce cans?
That is the first thing I thought when I saw 7.5 is, why did they go with 7? The only thing I can assume, Brian, is it may be a standardized package size, because I know there's other things that come in a 7.5-ounce can. That's the only reason I can think why they wouldn't go for a straight 8 ounces.
Yeah, I was wondering if it's a numbers game, because I think that these are $1 or $2 cheaper. And I don't have dude's name in my head. Beer Crunchers, his Substack. I got this from that. That was the only place I saw reporting this. So I want to give him a shout out. He's got a good Substack.
Gotcha.
But
all right.
Anyway, yeah, I was like, is this a numbers game? Because they're $1 or $2 cheaper than your 6-pack. And so I was wondering if they had to dial it in a little bit to make the numbers work, so it was enticing enough to get people to go for the 8-packs. Because I think that even if you did the math, it's technically more price. It's a higher price per ounce going for the smaller can size. but that's to be expected when you're going for smaller and more packaging. So
12 ounces would be 72 ounces.
Yes.
And of course, 8 7.5, that's 60 ounces.
Okay.
So Brian, that's one can of beer. That's 5 beers to a pack instead of 6, basically, if we're looking at 12-ounce cans. So perhaps that's it. They're basically, they go $1 or $2 cheaper. I don't know. That math seems like it probably balances out, right?
Yeah, I think that's probably what it is. This is a numbers thing. How can we make this work? We can't do it with 8-ounce cans, but we can do it with 7.5. And nobody's going to care about that half ounce. They're going to be fine.
People care.
Yeah, of course they will. Don't you?
Beer drinkers.
They want to see a little bit of head on the top of that pint glass.
That's right.
I'm eyeballing you. Not a bubble on top of that. How small is too small with cans? Would 4-ounce cans be okay, Tim?
No, you are going too small there. So here's my thought, Brian. I've put a lot of thought into package sizes. I would have liked 8. I'm weird with numbers. I like, some balance there. The 8 would have made me feel better emotionally. The 7.5 isn't bad. And that, that's a serving with head on the top of it. If you've got you an 8-ounce glass there, you can do that. And if you're wanting closer to a pint, if you have a pint glass, then 2 cans is going to get you right up there. So, go for that, get you a couple. And if you're pouring them to where you get head, then that's going to take you right up there to an American pint glass. But I think we go any lower than that and you're getting too small, maybe 6 on big beers. If we're talking barley wines and imperial stouts and all that, maybe. But 7.5 is still doable. And if you've got a really, really big, crazy stout, split it with a buddy. Each of you you can't get 4 ounces, Brian, because there's not enough in there. But I think most beers, you could probably handle 8 ounces of it if you're being responsible with yourself. So I think I would have liked to have seen 8 ounce just for that nice round number there. And two cans would be a pint. But the 7.5 are okay. That's my opinion on it.
I'm now thinking back to where people at one point in time, and maybe they still do this, but probably not, a lot less, where somebody would open up a rare bottle or can, and then they would basically decant them into small 2-ounce portions and then mail them to people. So you could get 2 ounces of a very rare stout or a rare sour. And I'm thinking, it's like, honestly, a Black Tuesday, if it came in a 4-ounce little can of some kind, a little mini ripper, I'd get into that. That would get open way faster than any other larger format. The big bottles, like, I'm never touching those hardly ever. So
it has to be a very limited amount of beers. I don't see the possibility of decanting stuff out and selling it in beer and you getting the right experience by the time it gets to you. I mean, I just don't see, even beers that don't have a lot of carbonation have some. And if that thing is poured to decant out, you're going flat. You're sure not going to get a decant of an IPA. Maybe someone can do it with still lambics or something like that.
Oh, that'd be good. Yeah.
See what goes on there.
Decant an entire bladder of still lambic.
Yeah.
You want a couple of how many ounces do you want?
Yeah.
I'll send you a smaller bladder in the mail.
It's like, Brian and I in our perfume obsession lately, our fragrance thing, they sell
fragrance, please.
They sell decants. People will buy these expensive bottles and then sell them in 2, 5, 10 milliliter. They could do that with these big beers, man. Order up how many milliliters you want and get hooked up there.
You get that Black Tuesday. You can get little spritz on the neck before you drink it. Yeah, you have the little spritz, just
or
a little bit.
Or you can spritz it on the tongue, Brian. Savor it. Put it back in the fridge. Break it out a couple days later.
Idea. Maximize it. Spray just enough to taste it, then put it back in the fridge, and you can come back and revisit that beer over time and see how it develops. Yeah,
2 ounces is going to last you a week easily.
Oh yeah,
easily.
You don't got to worry about driving a car. You're never going to get drunk that way. Yeah.
Yeah. They're like, how many drinks have you had? Literally none. Like 3 sprays of beer. That's all I've had today.
0.3 milliliters.
You get arrested just for that there.
Probably. You're clearly high, sir. We are arresting you.
Mini rippers. Yeah, but I'm in favor of that.
Yeah. I'm down with it. Brian, I'll get some.
For sure. I have finished my Founders Oktoberfest. This is really nice. I dig this one. I almost want to open another one, Brian, here on this fine evening.
I believe I gave you two, Tim. So
two beers. I didn't put the other one in the fridge yet, so I don't have another cold one. How are your beers treating you, man?
Any reviews?
Any reviews on those?
In the fridge at one time is madness.
Well, no, I have a ton of beers in the fridge. It's just not the one I want right now, which happens to me a lot, to be quite honest with you. I've got a fridge and a quote unquote cellar full of beer, but the ones that are ready to go never seem to be the ones that I want at that time.
So I've been sipping on the Clawhammer Oktoberfest from Highland. It's a good Oktoberfest. Nice, easy drinking. It. I think I was checking. I think last week the rankings. I think this for me was midway through our blind tasting, like middle of the pack, solid offering, nothing wrong with it, enjoyable. And again, I'm drinking it because I want to support Asheville breweries as much as I can. And honestly, Highland's the easiest one for me to get. The other ones are a little bit more hit and miss. So that's what I've got. And I like it. And if I see more, I'm going to buy more and just keep drinking it. So until they run out. Lag.
Seasonal lag all over the place.
Like a mofo, yes.
Good stuff. Well, that about wraps up our show this week. We greatly appreciate you hanging out with us. Again, we are recording this before the storms comes through. When the podcast goes out, it will have passed. And we hope that all of our friends in Florida remain safe in this storm. I hope it dies down before it comes across. But we hope that everyone does have a good week. And do not forget to drink local. Cheers.